Chai After Dark includes adult language and NSFW content. If you have uncle sensibilities, this podcast is not for you. Please be aware this episode includes discussions of sexual violence and abuse. Hey, potty people, it's your captain speaking from greatpods.co, Captain Ron. Thank you, the listener, for taking the time to listen to us jokers on this podcast. We appreciate you. By the way, did you listen to the Vyasar episode from Indian Matchmaking yet? You really showed it was really fun, and we think it actually shows on air. In this episode, we continue with HBO's documentary, Breath of Fire, Episode 2. Breath of Fire offers a multi-decade examination of corruption within Kundalini yoga and a portrait of a misguided guru and master manipulator, spotlighting the uneasy nexus of the American dream, self-invention, and fanatical ideologies. With that, let's go. Salam, namaste, and sat sri akal, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Chai After Dark. Chai.
Yoga Flame.
Thank you for reminding us, Sam.
I'm just very mindful today because of, Guru Jagat's teachings.
Especially these next couple of episodes. In this episode, we are talking about episode 2 of Breath of Fire on HBO Max, streaming right now. There's 4 episodes in this series. We are on episode 2. If you haven't listened to episode 1 of our recap, you can hit pause, go back to it, listen to it, enjoy it, and then come back to episode 2. As always, I am your co-host, Captain Ron, at your service from greatpods.co, potty people. And up next is Shubnum Nums. What's up?
Woo! Hey guys.
And we also have Samim, the Dream Mimi.
Let's go. Did I already do Yoga Flame?
Hello. You
already
also
did,
said hello. Where are the hellos?
Hello.
What
I've
about
been missing
Breath of Fire?
Breath of Fire.
There should be some dragon stuff in there, right? Was there something about dragons in this? Breathing dragon or something? Is that a breathwork type of thing? No.
I think you're thinking about Game of Thrones, but yeah.
Probably. I think so. What is the new Game of Thrones called? Is something fire?
No, it's House of Dragons. Is that what you're thinking of?
That's right.
There was something of fire in there somewhere. Regardless, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again, our loyal listeners, our new listeners, and coming in wherever you're coming in from. We appreciate it. Go check out chaiafterdark.com. Subscribe to our Substack, and that includes our podcast as well. In this episode, we are going to have co-host Shubnum Nums lead the way for us. Meanwhile, Sam and I will sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Just kidding. We are going to commentate. We've already watched episode 2. And so, Shubnum, please take it away. I hated that. Dude, you don't know how much that song was Pechanga Casino down here in LA for the longest on the radio and on TV. The longest time, because they would repeat just those lyrics the entire commercial. Oh my God. If I find the clip, I'm going to drop it in this episode. But it was just taking away.
You don't need to find the clip. I'll just do it every time.
That was a great song for a while. Yeah.
Pechanga Resort and Casino, Temecula.
Okay, royalty free.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all right. But before we get to Breath of Fire, what happened in our lives in the past week, Shubnum?
We went to Huma's villain's Halloween party in the OC.
Wait, who's Huma?
Riker.
Yeah, we saw you.
Huma, our friend, Huma.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Huma.
Huma, the one that always called us out for all of our mispronunciations or misinformation about Desi culture. Yeah, Mayus versus
Yeah.
Uptams versus. Oh, Shabnam had gone to her Mayu Haldi ceremony. Yeah, our favorite. Yes.
Huma
Yeah, our
turmeric
favorite. So
paste.
she, yeah.
That's her name. You know, it would
Huma
have been funny if
turmeric
we'd all
paste.
dressed
Yeah.
up, if we all had Haldi on our face and showed up to the Halloween party, and Huma saw this, and then
Yeah.
and she'd be
No,
like, "Why are you
didn't
wearing
we do
Haldi on
that?
your face?" And we'd be like, "No."
I don't know why we didn't do that.
We could
Yeah, we
could
should have
easily
done
say,
that.
"No, this is an Uptam," and then you come in saying, "No, this is my Mayu," and then you come in saying, "This is my turmeric healthy paste," you know, whatever.
No, like we should have put turmeric haldi paste on Samim's baby. That's what we should have done.
It's like a baptizing by turmeric paste.
I did recently introduce a new baby in my life, and I unveiled that baby at Homa's Halloween party. It was actually pretty amazing. Everybody was so happy for me.
You were forcing your baby to get kissed by other like people. Like, here, kiss my baby, kiss my baby.
I've never
A lot of
seen
that.
people take such like little effort into making sure a baby's happy. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, do people not like me and my baby? It was really strange.
So tell our listeners what your costume was before we go on this baby tangent forever.
Oh yeah, so I was falling behind in villain planning, and so was Imran. I know he was. So I ordered 3 or 4 costumes.
Don't
from
throw
Amazon.
me under the bus. I'm
just talking about last minute procrastination. So I ordered a baby, like Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover. They find a baby in the closet. I ordered that exact baby. Came with the sunglasses and everything. And everyone did not think my costume as a kidnapper at a kid's costume was all that appropriate, I think.
Maybe it's because we found a baby. A human baby. That's it. That's it. It's because we found a fucking baby. I don't think you should curse around the child. Really? I don't think you should be around a child.
Yeah, but the best part was every time you'd come around the corner and people would be talking, you'd be like, shh, my baby's sleeping.
I know.
What the hell?
That was a good baby. I have it here somewhere. I'll find it before the end of the episode.
Yeah. Num Nums, what were you?
I was Poison Ivy, and it was fun.
Ooh.
Hi there.
And you are
Poison. Poison Ivy.
But I picked that costume to match my husband, who was going to be the Riddler, but then he got sick, so that was unfortunate. But you know, it is what it is.
And then I was Commander Riker, First Officer from Star Trek The Next Generation.
Personal log, Commander William Riker. Stardate 41153.7. The USS Hood has dropped me off at Farpoint Station, where I await the arrival of the new USS Enterprise, to which I have been assigned as First Officer.
He has a beard, simple, nice Star Trek outfit, and he had this maneuver that he would do called the Riker maneuver, which is like where he's also tall, but every time he would sit down in the show, he'd always have to lift his he'd always purposely lift his leg over the chair, the back of the chair, to sit down. And in one scene, he actually reversed it too. So he went forward into the chair, like lifted over and sat down in the chair. And then he left the meeting by lifting his right leg up over the chair and left. So throughout the series, it was known as the Riker maneuver. So I tried to do it. A friend of mine told me that I lifted the wrong leg. So I'm going to have to do it again next year.
Oh, interesting.
No, we did it.
Nerds.
I thought we did it.
Nerds.
I'm in that.
He did it, but apparently
I lifted my left leg, not my right leg.
Riker.
You're not a big leg lifter?
I guess not.
You can't get your
Is that a
both
thing?
legs behind your head?
Is that a
It
thing?
is a thing for some people.
Yoga. It could
Yoga
be for yoga, isn't it?
flame. Yoga flame. That's going to be
yeah.
my cue
See, if
this
you did
entire
more,
episode.
if you
Yeah.
if you did some Kundalini, you would be able to lift your left leg too.
And put it behind your back.
We can ask our friends
Or
that later.
behind your back. All right, Guru
Should we get
Shabnam.
into it? So basically, in the beginning of this episode, we get some background on Yogi Bhajan and Guru Jagat, aka Katie Griggs. So that background is basically told through Haley Phelan, the author of the Vanity Fair article, The Second Coming of Guru Jagat, that the documentary is based on, and Philip Deslippe, who I will lovingly refer to as uncle from time to time, not in the sarcastic way, but out of respect because he's cool AF. And he's also a religious scholar and cultural historian. And then also Sandeep Morrison, expert in Sikh culture and history. So they tell us Guru Jagat was promoting something she really believed in that originated from Yogi Bhajan, but he made it all up. So Yogi Bhajan was this charismatic character, but everything about him was basically a fraud. One of the weird and random things he preaches is that after the age of 18, it's not advantageous to spend more than 72 hours under the same roof as your parents, which it's like, what kind of desi person would ever say that? It's
That's like
just
the
like,
antithesis of having kids in South Asian culture.
yeah.
You want them there. If you don't spend 72 hours with your parents, then you're shit out of luck with them.
Yeah, if you don't spend at least 72 hours or more in a row with them, like it's a violation.
I saw that when they started talking about the families, and I don't think there are titles for these episodes, but if they could title them like Indian matchmaking, I would call this family, right? Family and background or something. But that was like interesting to as we get to know, and as you will go down the timeline, but we get to know more about parents in general. So this is a nice little setup of how the manipulation of it all would take place under the pretense of family.
Yeah. So then we get to hear about Yogi Bhajan's past in India, which was pretty unsavory. Apparently, he got a woman pregnant and fled India to avoid dealing with the fallout of that and the baby, unlike Sameem, who brought his baby to the Halloween party.
Nice.
Ooh,
Nice
relevant.
reference.
Hashtag relevant.
Nice.
That was a nice pull.
Relevant reference.
So he comes to, I'm just saying, unlike the deadbeat dad Yogi Bhajan, you're great at hanging out with your plastic baby at the party.
Look at the comparisons here. The comparisons are like, are you a deadbeat dad or are you a Halloween dad? Like,
No, this is good. Everyone knows you don't have to worry about me starting a cult. Shake and bake.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So he comes to America, leaves behind his sketchy identity as this deadbeat dad, and he realizes when he comes to the US that all these American people just assume that he's like this yoga master because he's Indian and he's tall and he wears a turban. Because, if the chappal fits, then yeah.
You must have quit.
This is the most racist shit. This guy pops out from India in the 60s and 70s, and everyone just starts pointing at him. They're like, do you know yoga?
He's
Can
a
you teach us yoga?
customs agent, too.
He's a customs
agent. It's not like
That's how he learned all these customs.
He knew all the BS people would tell him to smuggle stuff across. And so he just used that for himself. He's like, oh, if this is working on other people, then I can use that in some other affair.
That was his training ground for manipulation.
Yeah.
That's when he started patting
people
people down, and he's like, oh, I can turn a cult into this.
Yeah. So he saw that he had an audience of people in search of identity, and he built this persona to fit that. He changed his name from Bhajan Singh Puri to Yogi Bhajan. Philip Deslippe uncle says he's acting deliberately, methodically, and he's a good opportunist. So he gets all these students to start to follow him, and he claims that Kundalini yoga has this like rich 1,000-year history, but he's literally just making it up as he goes along. Even going so far as making a reference to one of my favorite 1990s American Chicken Dinner Shake and Bake by literally yelling at his students in his class, shake your body, shake and bake. And they all do it.
It's a little bit of shake and then bake. Shake and bake.
I wouldn't believe it if they didn't show the video. Like, this guy is getting up on stage. He's trying to hold in his laughter. You can tell that he knows he's like just screwing with these people, and he's shake and bake. That was from the 50s. It was, what was it, like one of those oven products? You just put it in and then you have your meal, right? Like an
I mean,
instant
we
meal
had it
for
Not
in the
from the
90s.
50s, brah. Yeah, what the heck,
Shit.
man?
It
Why you
might have
dating?
started. I don't know when it
Obviously,
started.
it started
but
way
like,
back then.
That was one of my favorite
Mr.
things my mom would
Yeah,
make me.
exactly. Yeah, this guy
Yeah,
came
it
long
might
time
have been
ago.
from like because he came in the 60s, so I think this was like the 70s maybe, but I ate chicken bake in the 90s and it was damn good.
Yeah, and we had it in the 90s. It was the fun part when your mom would give you the bag and say shake
Yeah.
and bake it, and it's the shake and bake brand, and you shake the crumbs onto the chicken.
Yeah.
Now, you guys just reminded me, and I'm going to ask my mom after this, is that if it still exists, I'm sure it still exists, is that I'm going to have shake and bake either tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like,
which-
now
yeah.
I'm craving it, thanks to
Yeah.
you. All right,
Yeah. Well, what my mom would do is she would add a little more red pepper in it, a little more like, to make it
Daisy-fied a little bit.
Yeah, make it a little more masala, But
Maybe that's what
anyways.
he was referring
So-
to.
Of
He's
course-
like, "Where's my
For
food?"
some memes
He's like, I'm
And,
getting hungry.
and Sameem's reference, obviously, through Will Ferrell's Talladega Nights, shake and bake.
Shake and bake.
Yeah.
So it's from Breath of Fire episode 2
Oh,
because he yells it out in the first
really?
5 minutes of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're totally right.
So-
Yeah, shout out Will Ferrell. You're
Okay.
right.
So then we get into some history and backstory of Katie Griggs, aka Guru Jagat. So we meet some people in her life who tell this story, and they are her mom, Nancy Galloway, her stepfather, Rabbit Galloway, which
Can we pause?
which I
Can we pause?
yeah.
Yes, do it. You
Do
must
what?
have a joke. You don't have
No,
a joke for this?
I'm
I
just like,
I immediately was just
this is-
thinking Matrix, the rabbit, white rabbit, going down the
Mm.
rabbit hole. And I was going down the Matrix mindset. I don't know about you guys.
oh, like he went down the rabbit hole. But also, I'm like, this can't be his birth name,
Maybe.
Like,
I mean, could be very hippie-ish. They come across super hippie.
yeah.
Katie's parents.
But like, yeah, that's fine. But then that would mean that Rabbit's parents would have had to be hippies. And that seems like that was
Rabbit.
before. Yeah. So I don't
The
think,
hippie generation, yeah.
yeah, I don't think that his generation would have named their child Rabbit.
100% his name is Peter.
Yeah.
Well, we already have a Peter. It's got to be something else like Kevin or something.
But we're calling
Peter
that
Rabbit.
No, we're here for Peter Rabbit.
Peter
We
Rabbit.
can call
Oh,
him. Yeah.
now I get. Thank you, Shabnam, for see.
Oh, you
Here
didn't. You didn't get that.
Sometimes we assume Shabnam doesn't get the joke, but half of the time I don't get the joke. But can I pause for half a second before we go on with Nancy and
Rabbit.
Ribbity Rabbit,
Uh-huh.
Peter Rabbit? Is that right before that? Was the when we're talking about Yogi Bhajan? Is that people assumed because
Yeah.
of the way he looked? I don't.
Yeah.
Like I'd love to like know in that moment if he was just acting like a normal like immigrant, customs
Yeah.
agent, I'm looking for a job, whatever, and people just automatically assumed you're yoga, you're a yoga master, and he's like, maybe I am, maybe holy crap, these guys believe me. That's where it starts to take hold, where he can exploit for
Yeah.
cash, money, or whatever, and make a living out here in the States. So people assumed it. Like, you
Yeah.
assume you make an ass out of you and me, and obviously he did. So that was the
He
kind of,
made
like,
an ass out of
indicator.
everyone.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that was a nice little like context of where he started.
Yeah. So we meet Katie Griggs' parents, Nancy and Rabbit, and then also her childhood friend, Laura Burhan. The first thing her mom says is that she wants to discuss Katie Griggs on camera, but Guru Jagat doesn't mean anything to her, which I thought was like really interesting and kind of notable.
Yeah.
So
They obviously miss their daughter. Like they get into it, obviously, but like the Guru Jagat thing, she's like, get the fuck out of my life. It was so obvious. She
Yeah.
had nothing to do with it.
yeah.
The
So
mom.
Nancy, Katie's mom, has 2 master's degrees in special education and dance movement psychotherapy, and she was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 41. We also learned that Katie was raised in a spiritual and artistic household, and Katie really leaned into like all things spiritual from a young age. She would ask her mom to like light candles at the table, and then they would like meditate together and stuff like that.
He had a bright light.
Yeah. Yeah. She had a bright light, her mom said. Yeah. Laura then tells us about Katie in school. So they met at 6th grade orientation, both wearing stylish clothes. So they connected right away. Katie was wearing a big hat and purple pants with paisleys on them, which is a classic South Asian cultural and artistic symbol. So her 6th grade orientation pants were like totally foreshadowing for sure. And then Laura goes into telling the story of Katie losing her virginity at a party, just basically saying, I'm going to go get rid of this thing and I'll be right back and tell you all about it. And then they found Katie's mom's vibrator at one point, who was like a single mom at the time. And like, ha ha ha, it was all fun and games. And they're really sexually evolved. Like, I'm trying to understand what the purpose of this section is. Like, are they trying to show that she was like a feminist because she was like really casual about sex? Like, I don't know.
It seems like they just picked the most sensationalist thing they could find from her teenage years, because it went from, she, like Imran said, she grew up in a very enlightened household, dancing. They danced all the time. And then all of a sudden, oh, she's a huge party girl in high school. And then it just goes from there. There was no other context other than that story you just told.
I thought that kind of mixed into the when we get to it, the traumatic experience, right? So you're freewheeling it, free love, maybe that sort of mentality. With Laura, I thought the connection there was that Laura, when she's coming in, bringing like the high school young days, building up the character story of Guru Jagat, was that the first thing that she saw when she entered her house when Laura first visited was the tarot cards, and there were specifically like angel cards. And I was like, I don't understand what angel cards. And angel cards are specifically designed to connect with angelic frequencies and divine guidance. So it's kind of probably keeping in that mindset where the back of your mind, like she's always had this spirituality card being played. And so what needed to awaken it, and other than Kundalini yoga, would awaken that as well. But yeah, I think the drugs or the alcohol and the freewheeling, the free love will play a role eventually.
Yeah. It's just interesting because like I feel like in white American culture, like they sometimes put this emphasis as like female liberation on being totally forthcoming about intimate sexual details. And it's like, that's actually not true, because just because you talk about stuff doesn't mean you have like actually have reproductive freedom. And I noticed that difference just like as a woman. I noticed that difference in Desi culture, where there's like a huge focus on education as a form of female liberation, like Malala and like all that. And so it's just interesting because I think like education, having income, owning property is like much more powerful than like hanging out talking about dicks. But you know, that's just my 2 cents.
And as we go along with this parental story, building that bond between Katie and her mom, when she was going off to college, they would dance and cry. And there's video footage of this in the episode. So we always dance together, and then you see her mom crying when retelling that story. And it's like, okay, you had this deep bond with your daughter, and obviously it's like empty nest type of thing where your kids go off to college and you cry, of course, but there's that disconnect that starts to happen.
Going back to what I was saying, like I think there's a lot of toxic parts of Desi culture, but this focus on education is a positive thing. So I just did want to highlight that. Okay. So then we learn that in college, both Laura and Katie's mom noticed a change in Katie. She partied a lot and she was drinking heavily and doing a lot of drugs. Katie eventually told her mom that she was raped, and that traumatizing experience really led her to have substance abuse issues. She began to drink a lot and do a lot of drugs. And even though she wanted to get this under control, it was like really, really challenging for her. And she hated the 12-step program and eventually really put an effort to try to heal herself through spirituality. And so that's where we start to get into the Kundalini and the yoga stuff. So now we get some of the women characters who worked with and learned from Katie that we saw in the beginning of episode 1, like Charlotte, who was the director of Rama Institute, and some others telling the story of how Katie got into Kundalini yoga. So after taking her first class, she was just like, this is it. This is how I'm going to heal myself. So she started doing yoga all the time and began to feel like the physical and spiritual were one in the same. In an interview with another yoga yoga teacher. She said yoga helped her healing from her childhood, a bad breakup, and all her problems. So we learn that she said even though she was in New York during 9/11, she felt she wasn't affected because of Kundalini, and specifically an experience she called Kundalini rising. This is like one of my first extremely like what the fuck moments of this episode.
So this entire segment really reminded me of the Gateway with Teal Swan building, I guess you could say, spirituality, cult, whatever you want to call it. Teal Swan from the Gateway in her own practice that she's built, she was also molested and raped at the age of 12, 13. There seems to be this common thread of PTSD, traumatic experiences from everybody, especially those leaders or those potential leaders like Kundalini Katie that have had a very traumatic sexual experience in the most negative way possible, that they're like feel lost. And from the whole view and learning from what all these other podcasts or documentaries, there's always that little bit of traumatic experience that leads them to where they're at now.
And Yogi Bhajan totally knows that. Like, he knows it so good.
Oh yeah. If you're a master of manipulation, come on.
He exploits the shit out of it.
Yeah. So after this major, like, what the fuck moment, we hear from a couple of cult addict experts who basically say that addicts need discipline and gravitate towards spiritual practices. So you see a lot of recovering addicts who tend to teach yoga. And I think this really aligns with what you just talked about, Imran. Like, I think maybe even addiction is sort of like, is a different kind of trauma, right? So it's probably just these traumatic experiences kind of, people probably gravitate towards spiritual practices as a whole after those kinds of experiences, I would guess. But I don't really know anything because I'm not a therapist. So Philip de Sleepe Uncle tells us how Yogi Bhajan advertised himself and his program as a way to help people get off drugs. They marketed the program called Super Health. He portrays Kundalini as the ultimate trip to his followers and tells them they can get high on their breath. So like, Samin, what you're saying, like he was super, like totally exploiting their vulnerability and trauma.
It's just, I think Imran brought this up last time on our first episode, Breath of Fire, but I do feel bad. And I don't like this sort of prey on people, particularly that had such difficult lives and trying to get over addiction and drugs. And you find this subsect of community in the United States, and they're so nice and they're willing to listen to you. Not only are they willing to listen to you, they're willing to sign over businesses. They're willing to, like, I know we haven't gotten into it yet, but this episode goes off the rails. But they just will do anything he says, and he's just, obviously we know he's a phony now, but even listening to his recordings, he's not saying anything of substance. It's we're making fun of the shake and bake thing, but that's what he's saying. Like, he's like, shake and bake, take a deep breath. If you listen to me, then I'll protect you. It's just so generic. But people need something. I don't know. I'm not a therapist either.
I mean, if they're at rock bottom, and what do they latch on to? Some sort of community. I think this all comes off to like community as well. So it's community, it's your tribe, it's people going through similar experiences, possibly finding something. Everybody's longing to find something. And so you build it up. And so you feel good about yourself. And then you're off drugs and everything.
Yeah. And it might be also that like people that go through addiction, even whatever community they may have had before, they may have completely like detached from the community or burnt those bridges because of their addiction. So I think that makes them like more vulnerable because they are alone, and then they find these like-minded people, and they probably feel even more connected and even more drawn to that.
Yeah. What support does the community, is the, I guess I put it in quotes, like normal community, what support are they giving? No, they're probably shunning them. If anything, they're like, no, get out of here. You're a druggie. Get out of here. It's like, no, I'm looking for help. Are the resources available? I think this day and time that we live in I think we're probably better off now that there's more mental health and therapy and all that stuff is a lot more prevalent, especially brown communities slowly getting into therapy. Maybe these new generations are, but old generations, anti-therapy, just
totally.
go for a run, do your homework, get a job, that'll fix everything. Get married, that'll fix everything.
Oh, get married fixes everything. That's the fixer of all problems.
Yes, I can attest to that. Come on. It fixes everything. I think I might just do it again, like this year.
What did it say? Third time's the charm.
Yeah.
Well, it's so ridiculous. And Yogi Bhajan literally was telling people who to marry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm about to get to that.
You're about
Yeah.
to get into it, but it's just
It's
get into it.
wild,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah.
wild. Like this
Okay.
this goes off the rails quick.
Yeah. So we see some of Yogi Bhajan's followers from the 70s now. And there are some of the people we saw in episode 1, like Peter Blackley, Leah Lamb, and also Mahan Kiran Khalsa, who is a blonde white woman, by the way, and her daughter Mahani Kiran, also blonde and white, and Sri Khalsa, also white, who is the son of one of the Yogi Bhajan's original followers as well. So the original followers all basically say that they joined because they found a sense of community and higher consciousness, kind of like what we've been saying. And this is where it starts getting a little dark. So Mahan Kiran Khalsa says she moved to the ashram, which is like their version of a shared community, and she picked a guy she wanted to marry. But Yogi Bhajan was the final decision maker on marriages. So he told her to marry someone she'd never met, and she got married to that guy like 3 days later. So Yogi Bhajan was going like full arranged marriage status in this ashram.
Oh my God.
It all comes back.
Yeah.
It all comes back to arranged marriage. Why do Desi people care so much about arranging marriages? It's wild.
It's so crazy. Everything he has access to, these people are willing to do anything for him. And he's like, I still just need that control. I need it so bad to tell two people to marry each other because he didn't want her to marry the person she selected.
Yeah.
Like it's just such deep ingrained control. And obviously some mental health issues, I think. Yogi Bhajan. But control is just the name of the game. I don't know.
So Leah Lamb got paired up as well. Yogi Bhajan made her Jora with the guy she thought was good looking. She loved her father-in-law. She says she was really excited. So it's funny, the producer asks her, how was it when you first got married? And she goes, it was horrible. And they like didn't know each other from Adam, and she like never held his hand. So like that was kind of interesting, which I feel like that's probably how...
Sounds about brown.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was like. It's probably what a lot of people from arranged marriages feel like, but I don't think they say it. I think they feel that way, but they like pretend like they don't feel that way. But I don't know, whatever. She says the alliance and allegiance was all to Yogi Bhajan, so there was always a third person in your marriage. Yogi Bhajan used his power of arranged marriage to pair people up as a power play and have control over other people.
Imagine faking that power. You're just like, yeah, you marry you. And then you're like, oh, okay, because you said so. Now you got the, like in his brain, he doesn't have any inkling or foreshadowing or anything regarding that arranged setup. And as if he knows everybody, if you have 100 people in your tribe, learning about their personalities and then being a proper matchmaker, even Seema Auntie has trouble. And she gets to know these people. She goes, visits them, and knows their personalities. And this guy can do it 100%? No, I don't think so.
But can Seema Auntie see their auras?
Probably. She goes to Dilip Bhai or Dilip Uncle or something. And
that's true. Yeah.
Seema Auntie is going after people that want to get married. They have a biodata. They're scared that people think that their biodata is going to be lacking. And Guru Bhajan was going after people at their lowest of their lows. So there's nothing in common with these two. And Seema Auntie looks like an angel compared to this guy, right? I know we made her, but come on.
Look, was it Rahul? What was Preeti Auntie's son?
Rahul,
Akshay.
really?
Akshay. You forgot Akshay already?
Who's Rahul? Tell me a single Rahul you know.
Because I have PTSD, okay? So I don't recall his name.
What was Preeti Auntie's son's name? Gulliver?
At least he didn't say rabbit.
Anyway, Akshay, he sounded and looked like he was at the lowest of the lows.
Yeah.
Even though like maybe financially they're fine, but like everything else about the dude was that he was at the lowest of the lows, and he got manipulated by his mom. That's all. I'm just saying that she could be a Kundalini yoga teacher, maybe.
Yeah. So. She could be.
Nice.
I'm just imagining that now. Like,
if she was doing,
except she's not flexible. She is completely inflexible.
She would always have her BP. Like, my tension.
She needs to do Kundalini and take some breaths of fire. Maybe her BP won't be so high.
Take
so she
this
could be
stick
healthy,
and put
happy,
it
and
right up
healthy.
your ass.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right now, we're getting aggro Samim. Anytime we bring up Preeti SD, he goes nuts.
It was pretty relevant.
Yeah.
She has a stick up her butt. If she was up on stage, she wouldn't be yelling shake and bake.
Shake and bake.
She'd be yelling other things.
Yeah.
She'd be yelling, "Get married, my BP's high."
Well, when you bring up similarities, she wanted her kids to have kids right away, right? Like within a year or something or like that.
Yeah.
And so one of the characters here in this show, she had 3 kids once every year.
Yeah.
Within the first, like, what is it?
3
36
kids
months?
in 39 months. She
39
said. So
months,
that was,
3 kids.
Yeah, that was Leah Lamb, and she was like traumatized by that. She was the one who got married and like was like
The
it was
arranged
horrible.
marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other lady, Mahan Kiran, said she was like happy to have assistance finding a spouse. I was like, all right, people have
Yeah.
different opinions.
I was
So,
looking into
he's the
Mahani as one of
daughter.
the 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
And she was born in the ashram. And so I landed on her Instagram, and she's teaching a variation of Kundalini still, even though going
Interesting.
through a traumatic experience within yoga. She dubbed it Mahani Yoga. So a lot of these people, like,
Interesting.
they'll learn their foundations of Kundalini and then put their name attached to it. So it's fascinating to know she's still doing this type of yoga or variation of it.
That's
Yeah.
nice. That's actually really nice to hear that she has a positive, at least.
Yeah, so like Imran's talking about, we hear from Mahani Kiran, who's part of the second generation, daughter of one of the original followers, and also Sri Khalsa, son of one of the original followers, both white people. They say they had to get up at 4 a.m. to do 2 hours of yoga, and if they messed up, they had to start over, and then they'd have to do 2 hours of meditation after that. And when they were done with all that, they'd get 5 raisins, which were precious because they weren't allowed to have sugar. So there were like so many sets of rules for every part of life that were all made up by Yogi Bhajan, and it was like super, super abusive. So while he was really so prescriptive, requiring them to have special diets, not cut their hair, and how to sit on the toilet, he said, if your bowels do not come with cannon fire, it will be followed by 3 days of depression. And that was the second what the fuck moment.
Wait, was it pee or poo?
He said bowels.
Oh, okay. I thought it was pee.
So
if
that's poo.
your pee didn't shoot out like a cannon.
But whose poo shoots out like a cannon? Isn't that problematic?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think
He's
either
eating a
of
bunch of
them are
dal. I think
problematic.
bowls full of dal probably for
Yeah,
himself.
what kind of
and giving
constipation
raisins
is
to
the
the
bro
kids.
doing, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of his
That's-
advice makes sense.
That's the scene. I think he watched Dumb and Dumber, where Lloyd, Jeff Daniels' character, is sitting on the toilet, and he just like massively destroying the toilet from Dumb and Dumber. I think that's what he saw and said, yes, that's part of it. If you don't take a dump like that, then you're gonna have 3 to 5 days of depression.
Can you
He's like
imagine
starting a
people, like, taking
Miralax
notes?
company, Yogi Lax.
But then also it's like people like taking notes in that class, noting it down like shit really fast. Like what do you write down
I
of
know.
like this like
Oh my
Yeah.
God, Samim, you're actually right. The yogi tea, right? Which was they made the yogi tea, this Kundalini
Yeah.
yoga,
Is it
right?
for digestion?
The disciples and everybody. I know the licorice version of their tea bag,
Yeah.
because I had it a long time ago up in the Bay. That one would always make me poop it out. It would give me
There you
bowel
go.
movements.
Because the licorice, the fennel seeds, that's an old desi cure for constipation. Like they make babies drink if they have like colic, you soak the fennel seeds in the water and you have your baby, like the baby drink a little bit of the water. Not when they're really little and they have colic, but like when they're a little older.
Fascinating. Yeah, because I remember that it said better like gut health or something, if I recall, better gut health or stomach problems or something like that. Wow. Okay,
scam.
this is all making sense.
So then Yogi Bhajan also claims to see their auras and numerology and to see their spiritual names, and he gave them all Sikh names. And some of them have kept them till now, and some of them are like, yeah, no, I'm going back to Leah Lamb and Peter Balchi or whatever. I forget what his name. His name is something like that. He also really put a wedge between parents and children by emphasizing to parents that they came with all their previous baggage and that their children were destined for greatness. So he tells his followers America is toxic with a lot of its drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and they need to send their kids away from this and send them to a boarding school in India, which is a safe environment, no molesting, no raping, no drugs.
Right.
Yogi Bhajan.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This part was
He went
this
from-
guy is like he came to the United
Insane.
States to meet white women. It's so obvious. And then
Well,
he's like,
he
send
ran
your white
away.
women babies back to India.
Yeah.
Like this guy's crazy.
Yeah, but also he like screwed, like he had sex with this Indian lady and left her high and dry, came to America, and then he's like, hey, there's no it's all nice and good over there. It's like you were the one that was an asshole over there.
And then Imran, you're totally right. One of the quotes from I don't know if it was from Leah, it might have been from Leah, but she literally says the sense of belonging and community was amazing. But then we
Yeah.
realized it wasn't about us. It was about him.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. He was the
and
center
then-
of everything.
And Mahani's retelling the story of
Yeah.
the boarding school when she
Yeah.
went to boarding school.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. But here's the thing, Samim, you kind of alluded to it, you joked it a little bit a second ago, but where you're sending kids off to boarding school, that's not unheard of in Desi culture.
Yeah.
Right? Especially
right.
out in the western side, they're like, we're going to send you back to India or Pakistani boarding school. So there
And
was
even
a section.
in India and Pakistan, they send them away to boarding school. Remember, Capiche was telling us that.
Yeah.
Capiche was
I actually
telling us
know
that.
a family member that was sent to boarding school.
Same in my family as well. Yeah.
So it's a thing, and especially if you want to keep your culture and all that good stuff outside of what he was talking about, the corruption of America's culture. But you're sending American kids to a foreign land. It's not like the generation beforehand, came to America and then send it back. Like there was no sense of South Asian culture outside of the Kundalini yoga practice, which is fascinating. But the boarding school was abusive.
Yeah,
and
and
getting
also
traumatic experiences from there.
Yeah, but also like let's be clear, there's obviously different types of boarding schools in India. Like the ones I think my family member went to, your family member probably, Imran, and I'm sure like Capiche, there are like really good boarding schools, and oftentimes going to a boarding school is also like a sign of wealth, right? But it sounds like the ones these kids were sent to were like shitty boarding schools.
Oh, this was definitely a makeshift. He called up his homies back home. He's like,
Yeah.
hey, get a building and we'll send some kids over and make some money off of this. That's what
Yeah.
it sounded
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
based off
He
of
called it a-
especially the pictures that they show
Yeah.
of the grounds. I was like, you still have rubble there. My
Insane.
side story,
Yeah.
by the way, my dad at some point in the 80s, I don't know if I was like 4 maybe, sent us off to Pakistan.
Oh, wow.
And he wanted us to get educated in Pakistan. He's like, no, I'm sending the kids back. We're going to move back to Pakistan and we're going to send them to boarding school out in Pakistan. And I remember like just being like going on that Pan Am flight, having a good time flying, go to Pakistan for a day or two, and then not realizing, I'd pick up the phone. Every time I would go to India or Pakistan, I was with my brother and sister, but I'd always want to come home. I just wanted to go home. I want to go home. So I'm crying on the phone. Like, so my,
But I mean, that's, your mom's
yeah,
probably like,
like-
dude, I can't live without my
Yeah.
all three of my kids.
and you're
for this
sending them
long.
off to like some boarding school. Like now Mahani is out there for 3 years, right? 3-4 years
Mhm.
of boarding school. And they're forced to do all sorts of things that are against
Yeah.
their will and not appropriate even.
Yeah, they just like can't step out of line. They get slapped for everything, even for having boogers and dirty nails, and they're like kids. And then they were also instructed to write notes, copy from the board, basically telling their parents that they're enjoying themselves and they're fine, which is like, that's like really sick and manipulative.
Yeah. They bring Leah back in and they say, I know, Imran, you just said 3
Yeah.
years, but then she says 9 years
Wow.
Oh,
for her kids.
Yeah, so it must be different for different kids.
Yeah.
And then like Mahani says, like, she wishes that she'd been able to like go to the doctor when she comes back, but her mom didn't take her, and they would come for visits and they would be sent back even though they like were expressing trauma and like crying about having to go back. But yeah, it's kind of crazy the like guilt the first generation carries for putting their kids through that. Like Samim was alluding to, it's really had like long-term effects on their relationships. Leah says none of her 3 kids that she had in 39 months, none of them speak to her today. And the way she talks about it, it feels like she's just resigned to it, and she accepts it as like a punishment for inflicting her choices on them. She knows they feel betrayed by her and their spiritual teachers and everyone. It's like so sad to see her.
That's where I kind of want to understand Mahani's like thinking of continuing to do Kundalini yoga. Do you guys think it's I've been doing this all my life, and now that like I know the truth or I know what's been happening, do you completely do a 180 or do you stay with what you know, but you do the variation like what she's doing? Like, I'm trying to understand that thinking. I probably would go the opposite direction in finding something else.
It's just such an ingrained feature of her life that
I think so.
She was like born into this whole situation. The second generation, she said, I was born into it in the United States and they sent me out there. Even in her interview on Breath of Fire, she's still wearing the garb.
Yeah.
Right? 30 years later. So if it's taking her in a direction of healing and a spiritual journey that's actually like relevant, not Instagram Katie like ripping people off, then that's like a beautiful thing. I'm actually very happy for her. But she doesn't actually say she's happy or anything. She's still just recounting her life.
This boarding school was all sorts of messed
craziness.
Up, like slapping your hand, slapping you if you had unclean nails or you had some boogers. Like
that happened to me in Pakistan. I went to school in Pakistan in 3rd grade for the entire 3rd grade. And that happened to me.
Forget about my story that almost got to boarding school. You actually you actually got shipped out.
Yeah.
And spent a year
I didn't get
there.
shipped out. So I don't know the exact story, and I've asked my mom a few times, but I was born in the United States. We went to school here in California. My dad got transferred to Texas for a job when I was 7 years old. So 2nd grade, I went to school in Texas, in San Antonio. 3rd grade, I just remember going to school in Pakistan, getting all Fs because I couldn't write in Urdu. And then we got back and I just went to 4th grade. So I didn't go to 3rd grade. I think I did really fucking well in this life for not going to 3rd grade.
Well, all I have to say is I am marked safe from going to boarding school or any kind of school in South Asia, Pakistan or India.
So. So you didn't get hit like I did? Yeah, it was. You're right, Imran. I think I might have. Yes.
PTSD.
Not to Yogi Bhajan this. Yes, let me think about my trauma because that's what he wants you to do. But yeah, I got. If you're standing there and you move when the bell rings, they find you and they come hit you across the face. So you have to like freeze when the bell rings. In class, if you were out of line, they would like slap you across the face, but it wasn't that tough. But one time she took a hard-covered book and just raked it across my face. And I still remember
across
that.
your
It
face?
still stings. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel the heat right now?
No, I can feel it. Like I can feel it now. And this was
you should have dressed up as her for Homa's Villains Party.
You with a book pasted to your face.
We know who she is because she was also my mom's teacher.
Oh,
at
shit.
the same
What?
school. Yeah.
Interesting.
And your
So she was
mom
like,
still
she's like
allowed it?
90 years old now.
And my mom was like, you go there and you get hit across the face like I did. But my mom was like 19 or 18 when she had me. So we were like almost peers. Okay, well, there's my story.
Damn.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't go to a boarding school where I got like, thank God, like nothing like extremely.
Yeah, because there was
traumatizing.
molestation and stuff in this school, which was
Yeah.
totally what Yogi Bhajan promised the parents wasn't going to happen, but apparently it was happening. So I think we're going to learn more about that in later episodes. But basically,
and his quote,
Philip,
Shabnam, like his quote for all of this that we just talked about for the last 20 minutes, he literally says, "They talk to me, and then I save the child." That's like his big like.
Yeah,
that's what he said to the people to get them to send their kids to India. Like
it's crazy.
He just says like, "I'm the guy."
Yeah,
I think that's it.
The customs agent became an effective manipulator.
Yeah.
essentially.
Very effective.
Watch out for customs agents. No, but Philip de Slip Uncle, he says Yogi Bhajan was a very effective manipulator of information and kept secret the abuse in the boarding schools, but that like every element within 3HO had a party to play in reinforcing the system. Even the naive true believers helped uphold this image of Yogi Bhajan as this larger than life and worthy of adoration and worship, like kind of a character. So now we get back to the 2000s. Yay. When Kundalini penetrated the mainstream and celebs started doing it. That was a lot of puns in that sentence. Sorry. Jules.
What was that? What was that?
Well done.
I don't know. I didn't
They
do
said
that on
it. Celebs
purpose.
started doing it. I wrote that down too, and I didn't realize the connection there until you said it. I was like, oh yeah.
Oh, if celebs are doing it, then
Yeah.
wow.
So Jules Hartley, who was like a peer at the time of Katie Griggs, aka Guru Jagat, says she remembers a time where a whole bunch of celebs, including Rachel McAdams and Russell Brand, would come into the studio, and there was so many paparazzi in the parking lot that it became a problem to like even access the cars in the parking lot. So, Katie was, and you know, yeah, and this is supposed to be a freaking spiritual experience. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, you know.
Yeah.
So Katie was coming to class at that time as well, and she released at that time weekly astrology videos under the name Kundalini Katie. She also taught people separately in her own living room, which she called her private studio in Venice. She didn't at that time stress about people paying. It was informal, it was cheap, and about community. She said she also felt, quote unquote, a cosmic feeling that was preparing us for something big. Then she started taking classes with Hari Jiwan, aka Stephen Herzl. He was one of Yogi Bhajan's right-hand men and an early student. So he would give students an audio recording of him chanting, and they would listen to it to have, quote unquote, his sound current in their aura. And it gets even weirder because Hari Jivan, aka Stephen Herzl, tells his students that Yogi Bhajan had been doing this for billions of years, and he, Stephen Herzl, had been his servant for billions of years.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. And in 2009, Hari Jivan, aka Stephen Herzl, led a teacher's training, which was physically and psychologically taxing because he would urge the attendees to go to places of trauma and relive their worst experiences, including, quote unquote, any perverse sexual memories. The meditation was supposed to remove these negative experiences. Jules Hartley was there, and she recalls Katie also attending and having like a lot of buzz around her because of her following. So this is kind of what you were talking about earlier, Samim, about like he's basically like encouraging people to like think through their trauma, just like you and Imran did a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I actually feel a lot better. So maybe this Yogi Juggin guy was not he wasn't completely
Well,
bullshit.
that
Yogi
point
Jivan.
right there is a very this my common theme thread is Teal Swan again, that she went through that also in her Costa Rican like retreat. And when I watched the documentary, they talk about like you need to expel that traumatic experience and you need to do it out now, like here. And so there was audio of people just crying and shouting and having these traumatic vocal experiences while reliving that actual experience. Like she says you have to live through that experience again to get it out. I don't know how powerful that is. For me, I think just go see a therapist.
Yeah, I don't
to talk through it. But yeah,
I don't know that reliving is necessarily a good thing.
It's not healthy.
But yeah. So then we hear from Laura again on how Katie had a traumatic history with her dad, who left her and her mom when Katie was like 1.5. So she would wait by the window for him to return. Rabbit, her stepfather, says that it was her daddy issues that allowed Hari Jivan, aka Stephen Herzl, to penetrate Katie's psyche.
What was the name of this place called the where the celebrities went?
Was it like Golden Bridge, I think?
Yeah. So I looked into Golden Bridge.
Okay.
Because a lot of this since episode 1, they're based in LA. Everything's based in LA. And if I'm here, I gotta know where this shit is, right? So I Googled Golden Bridge, found out it's permanently closed. So just like last week,
They've
where
done enough damage.
3HO was also permanently closed, but the website is still active. Everything is still active. By one of the disciples, Gurumukh, was born Mary May Gibson from a small Illinois town. So she is continuing the Kundalini Golden Bridge yoga through online practices, and she charges a subscription model, $12.99 a month or $130 a year. Here's one of the sections that I enjoy. They have a focus area where you can check mark box. What do you want to focus on? Full body, arms, core, legs, and booty. So I clicked on booty because she has these videos. I was like, let me click on booty and see what it has.
I'm sure
Nothing.
you did.
She has no videos. There's no videos on. Why do you even
She
have
can't be
booty
putting
as
those
an
booty
option?
videos up. You know that.
It was
those
lame.
videos are not available with your current subscription. Okay.
Pretty much. Like, is it going to be on yogahub.com? There was a but it was right in the center of Hollywood, where you're 2 streets away from Hollywood and Highland and the Chinese theater and everything's ripe with paparazzi. So whatever they want. Anyway, so back to Hari Jiwan and his practices.
Yeah, so he was looking for a young female face to start up his yoga practice with. He knew that marketing himself, a middle-aged white man, wasn't really going to do shit. So he chose Katie because he saw her ambition, that she was a performer and she loved being the center of attention. And he was like, she's my person, not in the lovey-dovey Gen Z way, but in like a creepy old man way. He saw her as an opportunity to broadcast and exert a system of control over a young millennial audience. Then in 2012, Katie started going by the name Guru Jagat, saying Yogi Bhajan gave her that name, which is highly suspect. In the first video where she introduces herself as Guru Jagat, though, she and the other woman, a yoga teacher who are talking, they both literally start hysterically laughing, like they can't take it seriously. And it was like the weirdest thing. Did you guys notice that?
I did notice it, but I was like, this isn't real, so it's a scam. And
Yeah.
I was, of course you're going to laugh when you say it for the first time.
Yeah. So then Philip DeSilip uncle comes in hot with the facts, saying you can request a spiritual name online.
Come on, wait, is it Philip DeSilip uncle?
I don't know how to say it. DeSilip.
The historian, the yoga historian.
Yeah, he's cool. He's cool. I love him. I guess we
just call him uncle. Yeah, no, he's the cool one of this because he's spitting out facts.
Yeah. So he comes in with the facts, saying that you can request a spiritual name online for a small donation or fee, and that's likely where she got it from, and that she probably got it in 2004. So the question they pose in the documentary is, if she got this name online in 2004, why did she wait until 2012 to take on that name? But I feel like the answer is probably because it's dumb AF, and it was like so dumb that she like sat on it for 8 years.
I think it was because of the social media and internet, because it's a lot easier to find people that will take you seriously on the internet, on Instagram, because if she was doing it in real life and calling herself that in 2004, she would have to be like really, really good in person. You can just put that proxy up, call it social media, and be like, I'm a guru, but you don't actually know that because all you're doing is hitting the follow button. And that's how all these celebrities started coming too around 2012. So it's so much easier to run scams nowadays, but it's also probably a lot easier to get caught.
That's true. That's a good point. Haley Phelan's the Vanity Fair article reporter that we've been mentioning a couple times. So in her interview with Katie did audio tape interviews. Katie says, it's like your rapper name. It's certainly our lineage. And it was a male name that she was given as a disruptor in the space, which I find the whole part where she says it's certainly our lineage as like super offensive sounding. I'm like, whoa, Karen, calm down. That's not your lineage.
Yeah,
honey.
what lineage is that?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, wow, okay. And then in 2019, she's invited on stage with Hari Jivan, aka Stephen Herzl, where they announced she was starting her own studio, and she also did a complete personal rebrand as Guru Jagat. She showed her mom a business plan and even took a $20,000 donation from her mom, and this was the birth of Rama Institute. So Katie's family and friends heard from her that she was doing it for Hari Jivan, aka Stephen Herzl, not with him. She heard Yogi Bhajan very clearly in her head, like the Thunderdome, she says, saying, Rama Institute for Applied Yogic Science and Technology. And this is where I'm like, this entire thing is complete bullshit, because if he was really in her head, it would be Rama Institute of Applied Yogic Science and Technology. Shake your body, shake and bake.
That is what we all keep thinking when we watch this. It's like, this can't be real, because
When's the accent coming out? You know,
his accent's it's actually not that heavy when you listen to the
know.
recordings, but it's just so over the top. You're totally right.
But
Also, when is Shabnam going to get canceled for these accents?
seriously, Huma doesn't complain about it. She complains about us, but she doesn't complain about Shabnam's accent.
Russell Peters can do it, so I know I'm not Russell Peters.
Somebody going to get hurt real bad.
Exactly.
Now, did you talk about Katie's dad?
Oh yeah, he left when she was 1.5.
Okay, that was just fascinating because of like more trauma, right?
Yeah.
Like you got no father figure and all that stuff. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and you know, I think she's like probably always looking for the spiritual father figure, like all along, right?
So what did I do? I had to go find out more about Hari Jivan, and going down the rabbit hole, not rabbit from the show,
not Peter Rabbit Hole.
God,
Jeez,
there's too much going on here. I went to Google Hari Jivan, and his website is updated. They're opening a Beverly Hills institute called Go Bind. I don't know if it's Gobind, like Desi Gobind.
Oh, Gobind,
or Go Bind Institute in Beverly Hills. It says opening soon. It doesn't have like a date or anything. I'm not promoting it or anything, but as I was going through his website,
we do not endorse cults.
We don't know. We definitely do not endorse this. But as I was going through his website, I was like, oh, holy crap. This is the guy who started the band. If you've seen Grammys in 2017 or 2023 and saw the white turbans and the white outfits, they're the ones that won the Grammys. You're wondering, I always wondered who they were. It's Hari Jivan was the dude accepting the award with the singing partner that was there. And the album name was called White Sun 2 in 2017. And then again, they won Mystic Mirror in 2023. I went to Spotify. I had to listen to some of their albums. There's one, and I don't know if you're going to mention The Gong at all. The Gong.
Yeah, he was like, the gong will cure you, right?
He's the Gong show right here.
Yeah.
There's an album specifically called The Gong. It is just gong stuff compared to White Sun 2 and Mystic Mirror. They have a little bit of that spirituality Anya take to them. Maybe a little bit A.R. Rahman instrumentation here and there. Those are more well thought out. But the Gong one, hilarious. It is funny. I invite you guys to at least listen for 30 seconds of the first one, because he just talks about the gong and then he goes gong. Something that
sounds
sketch comedy. Something sketch comedy would make fun of,
like SNL.
I'm definitely going to listen to it. I'll listen to it on the drive to the beach. I'm actually really curious to see what happens to Steven, because they leave a cliffhanger. I'm not really sure how involved this guy
Steven,
was.
You mean Hari Jivan?
Yeah, Stephen Herzl, Hari Jivan.
Steven to me.
Yeah, so the last part of the documentary, they say in April 19th, 2019, Rama had its opening night, and Katie's mom says that's when she joined the darkness. Katie chose to take on this persona and all the things that go along with it, but that's what screwed her. Her mom says it's hard to think of her as a cult leader, but what else would you call her? And that wraps up episode 2 of the Narcissist Pyramid Scheme.
And we end with the song from the band TV on the Radio called Staring at the Sun. And lyrically, it starts off with, cross the street from your storefront cemetery, hear me hailing from inside and realize I am the conscious clear in pain or ecstasy, which is a lot of this episode. And we were all weaned, my dear, upon the same fatigue. You're staring at the sun. Oh, my own voice cannot save me now. It's just standing in the sea. One more breath, and then I go down. Now it gets a little sexual, I think, in the next lyric, but in the going down part. But
that's okay. Yogi Bhajan.
So yeah, that was interesting. But the fact that the albums were made by Hadiji one, that was like the, oh my God, that's them moment for me in this episode.
Yeah.
Besides working
right.
through our trauma.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for listening in. You can always follow us at jaiafterdark.com and all socials. Congratulations to our winners, right? Do we have winners for the t-shirts?
Yes, we do. Our winners are Ashley and Corey. Congratulations, Ashley and Corey.
Congratulations. Email us with your suggestions on what to cover. We do have some ideas lined up, and we're excited to share that with you in the next couple of episodes. So stay tuned, as always, to Jai After Dark, wherever you are. And if you just want to give us a shout out, rate, review, wherever you listen to your podcast. If you're on Apple, review it there. And if you want to write something nice, please do. Spotify also has ratings, reviews, and Pocket Cast has ratings, reviews. Great Pods, you can write a review. So go to greatpods.co and go to the add review on your desktop and write a review for us. Maybe we'll give you a shout out. Yeah. So I take my leave, guys. Let's go.
Let's get out of here, dude. Let's jingle out.
Jingle out.
Yoga flame.
Yoga flame.
This episode was produced, edited, marketed, and created by Shebnam, Captain Ron, and Samim of Jai After Dark LLC in association with Great Pods.